Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Break at the Apex podcast. And after a very overhyped Spanish Grand Prix that still was decent, but not the best, we're going to get straight into the topics of conversation today. BT, Graham, how are you two wonderful gents doing today?
BT, you can
Christian
go.
Warner.
You can go, BT.
Christian Warner. I said Christian Warner first.
Okay. Sorry. Uh, sorry. No, I'm good. Honestly, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. I quite enjoyed the race. I don't know what it was. I guess maybe it's because I support like both teams that were in the front, and it was quite an interesting little thing going. But in general, like if you weren't a McLaren or a Red Bull fan, you probably didn't enjoy the race much. But ultimately, I quite enjoyed it. There was quite a bit of action here and there. And then that last stint where Lando was really catching, but maybe just not quick enough. But I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was good, and I myself am doing good. So thank you for asking.
BT?
I'm okay. I was quite sick this weekend, but obviously I did watch the race, and yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I even fell asleep at some point. Ferrari are looking disgusting at the moment, which is
I disagree with you on that,
they're
but we'll
looking.
talk about it later.
Yeah, we're gonna go to war today about that situation, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, they're not looking too good. They're not looking quite polished. How they looked beginning of the season, and what's sickening is that it could be that Mercedes is the third fastest car in the paddock, which is that's quite scary at this point. But yeah, I'm good.
Okay, no, all good. I actually want to pose a question to you, gents. So, and it's actually regarding something out of F1, but that has an impact on F1. So throughout the weekend, I watched some of the F2 where I could actually get into it, and we all know that Mercedes are really fighting hard to get Kimi Antonelli in the car, and obviously with Ollie Behrman in the whole Ferrari camp, they're really trying to get Ollie into F1. Just a quick thing I want to talk about. We can keep it short and sweet, but Kimi Antonelli and Ollie Behrman are not having good seasons in Formula 2. They proved to a degree that have pace last season, but this year they're just not shaping whatsoever. It's actually a disgrace to me that the drivers like Crawford, not Zayn Maloney, Arjun Maini, all these drivers that are really performing are not even being talked about with this crazy silly season we've got going on. And I would just like your gents' opinion on it because, yes, Ollie and Kimi are good, but they are not. Ollie Behrman is sitting 15th in the F2 championship. I think Kimi
Yeah.
Antonelli is 9th,
Yeah.
but they're getting. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Graham?
So I think you got to also look at the maturity. Obviously, I know in Formula 2 it's a spec sort of what do you call it? A spec championship, right? But ultimately, a spec series, yeah, a
yes.
spec series. But ultimately, the cars are still tuned differently. Sometimes the cars are still sometimes the cars are still better than other cars in certain ways, just by the way they're tuned, by the way they're built. Ultimately, they both racing for Prima, right?
Yes, both are in the
Okay,
Prima team.
and they are teammates as well, and both of them are not really doing too well. So it's not like you can really say that one of them is a bad driver. It is also possibly that they maybe just currently in a car that maybe isn't tuned as well as the other cars. Ultimately, I gotta say that, you know, Behrman, for example, has had a race in F1 and he proved that he is actually really good. And you can't take that away from him. Ultimately, you can't. You just can't.
Yes.
Regardless of how he's doing in F2, you can't take away the fact that he has had a race for Formula 1 and he did a damn good job in that race. You can't take that away. That is a maturity level that you don't get anywhere. Ultimately, De Vries had an entire season in the car and did nothing with it. Stoffel van Dorn won everything up until Formula 1 and did nothing in Formula 1. Some drivers just can't hack it. But Ollie Behrman has shown that he, even if it is just one race, he was able to hack it. At his age, I'm pretty certain with a little bit more practice, he would get a bit better. As for Antonelli, I can't comment, man. I haven't seen him in F1. I've barely seen him in F2. There's a lot of hype over this kid, but quite frankly, I've just not seen anything about him. I think Mercedes, I said this the other day to somebody, I think Mercedes are making a big mistake. Because the reality is Kimi is going to go into a team, and I don't I don't want to throw any shade, but Kimi is going to go into a team where his mentor is going to be George Russell, and
yes,
I'm just BT looks like
that's the unfortunate truth.
And I just don't like. I don't mean any shade to George Russell. It's just that he's not in that position where he needs to be a mentor driver. He's not in the position where, you know, he can call himself a mentor driver. And to be quite frank, when you have such a youngster coming in, he needs that mentor to be with him. I think Mercedes are making a big mistake. I think Mercedes needs someone like Carlos Sainz or somebody rather than a youngster like that, because yeah, they're heading for trouble if they're going to be putting up a youngster like him to be mentored by George Russell, if I'm really honest. So, yeah, I guess I'm rambling on too much. I guess that's the point that I need to make. Yeah, BT, you can give us your thoughts. I know you don't really watch F2 much, but you can give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the same boat as well. Is that it's machinery, so they don't have much control over it, and tuning as well. But another thing I can say is that I think Formula One teams, or both of those teams that want them, have seen enough. So they're not backing down into the decisions they're making. It's not going to make any difference if they don't do well this season, and maybe they stay in Formula 2 as well and do better the next season. It's not going to make. Teams have made their choices. Oli Behrman, it's quite simple. He has raced in Formula 1. He has shown the practical side that he can actually do it. The other guy, as Graham said, we're not sure yet, but it is purely on hype now and purely on potential. And that's the risk Mercedes are willing to take, to be honest with you. So that's my take on it.
Can I? Yeah.
No, look, I can.
Sorry, Dirk.
Sorry, Graham. Go.
Yeah, I just want to say as well with Behrman, I'm still convinced he's getting a seat next year. I just see I see it coming. I see it coming, and if anything, they've probably signed it already. Honestly, I've got a funny feeling that Magnussen already knows what's happening with him. I think it was in Canada they asked Magnussen about what's the holdup, or it was this week. They asked him what's the holdup with his news, and he looked at Carlos Sainz and he told Tom he's the holdup. So Carlos's decision is holding up the entire Carlos's decision is holding up the entire paddock. So nobody can move until Carlos has decided what he wants to do, and that tells me that there's multiple teams that have money on the table for Carlos, because that tells me that nobody's making a decision until Carlos has decided. Now that's great. That looks great for Carlos. Yeah. It you know, that means that Carlos is really hot property. That looks amazing. However, what it does do is it makes you start wondering about if they're not prioritizing someone like Magnussen, someone like I mean, they definitely made this decision that Sargent's not going to be around. That's for sure. Hülkenberg is going, so there's that seat open. So if they haven't made a decision on Magnussen yet, but they've already got a seat open, one of those seats are definitely going to Oli Behrman, 100%. Has to be.
Yes.
So yeah, I just think that Kimi, different story. Maybe Mercedes are playing smoke and mirrors here. Maybe they keeps talking about how much they want Kimi, and all of a sudden Max ends up joining Mercedes. This happens in Formula 1 a lot. No, I mean, come on, it happens. The point I'm trying to make is maybe they just smoke and mirrors, and then all of a sudden something else happens. But it also looks pretty set that he's going to be joining too. So ultimately, I'm not too convinced on Kimi as yet. I think it'll be a big mistake. But I'm 100% convinced that Oli Behrman's getting a seat, and to be honest, I'm not upset with it. I'd love to see more F2 guys getting seats, if I'm honest.
No, that I completely agree with. And yes, Oli Behrman has proven himself that I can stand by. Kimi Antonelli, Mercedes made it clear that if they're going to go the Kimi Antonelli route, they want to do what McLaren did back in '07 with Hamilton, where he was this youngster that was stupid fast. Nobody believed in him. And then the year after his rookie year in F1, he won the championship. With Antonelli, I don't see that happening. He just doesn't have that, I want to say, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc type aura. He just doesn't. But besides that, the main thing just for me is, I mean, F2 is the feature series, and there's more drivers on the F2 grid than on F1. And there is drivers that are, in my personal opinion, outperforming Antonelli and Behrman, and that also show more maturity. But that's just my personal standpoint. I just feel it's sad that there's a feature series to F1 to get youngsters into F1, but 5% of those youngsters are used.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's dive into the next topic, because actually, BT, you mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast, and I really want to get into this because this is a very interesting topic, and I had it with someone else today. So you mentioned earlier in the podcast that Ferrari just looked disgusting, and I told you I highly disagree with you, because here's how I see it. Yes, Ferrari got beaten this weekend by the other three top teams. That I will admit. Besides Perez and Piastri, we'll talk about Pastry and Sergio 2-year out of F1 contract. But here's the thing. By the end of that race, the top 10 was still covered by just over 10 seconds. Not the top 10, the top six cars, which included the two Ferraris. Charles was chasing down Russell, and Sainz was not far behind him. And they were still lap for lap averaging what the front guys averaged. They just didn't have the capabilities to get past them. I still feel, especially with Red Bull Ring and Silverstone coming up, that Ferrari is still there. They just had two very bad weekends now. And I honestly...
And the thing is, you are so confident in saying that normal, though.
It's Ferrari.
It's normal for Ferrari, yeah.
Comparing to previous years, I'm not even going to think about 2022. We had the championship in our pocket and we threw it away.
Yeah, but I'm saying that happened. We moved on, right? I'm not saying Spain was as bad as Canada, but to me, it's looking like Ferrari is starting to look like Aston Martin, where they're slightly going backwards. You know, that's how it looks. Yeah. I'm looking at it, because you had the question last week about Mercedes. Is Mercedes really back? And we said that we're going to give it a couple of races. This is the second race now.
Okay, but
and they done well.
Sorry, Carol.
And they done well in this.
No, I said sorry. Yeah? You can carry on. I'll talk when you're done.
So no, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Sorry, dude. Sorry. I apologize. Sorry. I just wanted to say, yeah, but I get what you're saying about Mercedes, but Spain has always been a Mercedes track. Last year, Spain did well there.
Yes.
Mercedes did well there.
To say that. Yeah.
So to me, it's more about what happens on these next two tracks, because these next two tracks are going to be the tracks that you will see more of going for the rest of the year. So Silverstone and Austria are going to be the faster tracks, and those are the tracks you're going to see more of the rest of the year. In terms of characteristics, you'll see more of these characteristics from the next two tracks for the rest of the year. And I do think that as the year goes on, you'll see more opportunity where Ferrari will be better. Ferrari definitely has a better aero. When I say better aero package, I don't mean ground effects where Red Bull just own fast, like type of fast swooping corners and stuff. I'm talking more of, like Monaco stuff. Like when we get to like Singapore, there you're gonna have another Ferrari.
High downforce. Yeah, high downforce stuff.
Well,
Graham, those tracks. I do understand when it comes to those tracks and what you mentioned, but I'm speaking about I know Ferrari didn't do well last year as well. They didn't. But the car they have now, the car they had last year is quite different. and it has improved. So my main concern by saying it's disgusting is that we came from an awful weekend. You understand? And prior to that weekend, we actually won the race. So I'm not talking about how far Ferrari is in terms of the cars within the race in qualifying, all that stuff. I'm just saying how
Yeah.
it looks to us fans, basically. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
analyze what's really happening with the performance and stuff.
I think,
You
yeah.
understand? So it's looking. We don't know what's happening. Dirk explained now how far they were, but Russell was on hard tires, and those hard tires were not fine enough for Russell. So it was quite easy for Leclerc to actually catch up to him because Leclerc was on softs. But anyway, it, it's just looking kind of scary. I'm not really concerned
Mm.
yet because I've seen this in my mind. I've seen this pattern before. I've seen
Yeah.
Aston Martin podiums. Aston didn't win a race, podiums, and all of a sudden just goes backwards. And no one knew what was
Yeah.
happening. And Ferrari brought upgrades this weekend. So that means upgrades were not actually working technically.
Yeah, but I understand the concern, but I really just feel like this is a track that is just not for them. I mean, and I guess Canada, I don't think it was the track that was the problem. I think they had pace, that they had pace when the slicks were on. The problem was the conditions. But in general, I think that Spain just does not suit them. And when we get to places like Singapore, places like Hungary, Silverstone, Austria,
Definitely Silverstone.
I really think that's where you're going to see a different Ferrari. However, and I've got to say this as well, I don't think Ferrari's going backwards. I think the others have leaped forwards. And what I'm going to say about that is, come Austria, Silverstone, Hungary, I feel that Ferrari might probably get back to being a better than maybe Mercedes. I'm still very wary about McLaren and Red Bull. Those cars, they just seem to be good everywhere.
Why though?
They just seem to be good everywhere.
Okay, but wait, that is literally the next topic of conversation. I just quickly want to give my 2 cents about Ferrari before we move on. BT, I actually really understand your point. Like, from a fan's perspective and from somebody that's not so technically, into stuff, it looks like they're going backwards. But Graham has a very good point that the other teams have, I want to say, stepped up just a little bit more than Ferrari. One thing that I do want to mention, though, Leclerc and Sainz both said the upgrades that Ferrari fitted this weekend worked. They just haven't figured out how to optimize them the way the other teams have optimized their upgrades. And that came from both the drivers. And besides that, yes, Spain, Canada, whatever, the track might not be their track, but the track's following, because Ferrari has got such a high downforce package, I don't see much from them for Red Bull Ring because that's a low downforce track. But Silverstone is Ferrari territory because it's a high downforce, high speed track.
Yeah.
And I think if Ferrari still have the pace that you're talking about now, where they're at the back of the top four come end of Silverstone, I think then you and me can really get concerned because then it's like, what the hell's going on?
The thing is, you coming from a technical point of view, which I understand, because I do understand that, but you get fans that don't understand that that part of Formula One. So to them, I'm looking at it from a fan's lens, basically, where we're having these weekends, and they probably there's a lot of people in Italy that don't really understand Formula One technically wise. And if they're going to watch races where they see Ferrari not be where they were in Monaco, not understand that Monaco was actually a good track for Ferrari. So I'm just looking at it in another way, another viewpoint of it looks
and to be fair,
bad. It looks kind of bad. Yes,
that I can agree with.
Us in the inside, we know what's happening. We know it's track related, but some fans are going to be like, so what's happening?
Yeah.
We were beating Mercedes like easy first part of the season. Towards the middle of the season now, Mercedes looking kind of good. Yes, they've optimized their car as well. Shot, but from a fan's point of view, it's like, oh, we had a not so good weekend in Canada. This weekend was okay. We finished in the points. So we have to wait for the other races as well.
Okay.
So my concern is if we go to the next racetrack and they still don't do well or they remain where they are, should we start being worried now and start talking, or should we wait for Singapore for them to win another race, or even Hungary win another race to be like, okay, no, as track related, which is we know that. But
I think one thing we need to worry about in terms of Ferrari at Austria is the weather conditions as well, in terms of the heat.
Yes.
I mean, if you remember, I think it was the last year, the year before, that Sainz's car ended up in flames. Leclerc, I think he wiped out. I think Leclerc wiped out his tires. He's had high degradation on his tires, but he also did quite well as well. Leclerc in one or two of those races in the last 1 or 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So ultimately, I expect Ferrari to do well, even if, like Dirk, I know what you're saying, but even if Austria is not a completely high downforce, sector 2 is. Sector 2 is like, you need to stick, bro. You're flying through there. You need to stick. And the reality is...
Yeah, but it's less than 25% of the lap. So you're going to optimize for a lower downforce.
Yeah, fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is they have been good there. It's not like they've never been good there. So I do expect them to be good there, but I don't expect them to be better than McLaren or Red Bull. I just expect them to be decent or on pace. I expect that Ferrari should and needs to be good at places like Silverstone, Hungary, Singapore.
Okay, leave Singapore. If they're not good in the other circuits,
if they struggle at Silverstone or Hungary, then I'd worry if I were you. And the thing is, like, I think as a fan as well, like, I have to admit, like, obviously I'm not a Ferrari fan like you guys, but I think you guys will agree. Ferrari does have a history of not exactly being the best developers throughout the year. They don't always develop very well from start to end in terms of the fight between who can keep their car moving the most from start of the year to the end of the year. They've never really been the best at that. So ultimately, unless they start getting that right, I can understand the concern. But last year they weren't so bad in developing their car. They stayed pretty constant for most of the season. It was only really near the end, I think, where Mercedes pipped them for second, right? Yeah, but that was near the end. So, but actually, that was near the end. And to be fair, that was to me a Lewis masterclass last year, if I'm really honest with you, because I feel like it was him that put Mercedes there in the first place. So ultimately, again, I think actually saying, using it as an example to what I'm saying, last year was exactly that. Ferrari did have a better car for most of that season, but they did fall back. So I get your concern in that sense, that they are a team that does sometimes tend to fall back in development throughout the year. But
it's that year where Perez is just catching on Perez stuff, right? So there's a chance that McLaren or Ferrari could win the constructors.
That's very true.
So this is crunch time, bro. Ferrari can't have weekends like Canada because McLaren is not having those weekends. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
So I'm just worried about that. Is that there's a loophole here because Perez is just Perez is doing his thing.
Because you're so you know what? Today I was dude, like, Dirk, I know you probably have some kind of question. I know we'll get to it, but I just gotta say, dude, like, I was literally
that's all good.
I'm watching the race alone, bro. Like, call me crazy. I'm watching the race alone, and I literally said it out loud. I was like, "Flip, this guy's useless." Like, gets a two-year deal. What did Gunther Steiner say? Gets a 2-year deal and then has a crash going from 18th to 17th. And then in the next race, he's chilling at 13th and 14th. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, dude, he's currently 5th, dude. Like, he's 5th in the championship. He's 5th. You know how ridiculous that is? He's 5th. But at the same time, and this question has come up before, but you really have to start wondering now, considering how close McLaren is to Max. You really do have to start thinking about this in a really serious way. Is like, is that Red Bull really that good? Or is Max really that good? Because quite frankly, like, Checo's not a bad driver. He's never been a bad driver. So you've got to actually think, like, is it the car or is it just Max's Max? Because I don't know. I don't know. It's very difficult to tell because at the same time, like, I asked that kind of question, but it also gives that story away when you see like one weekend he's 18th and then the next weekend he's 6th and then the next weekend there's 12th. Like there's no consistency there. So it's probably just that he's useless
Yes.
more so than the car is not that good. But I don't know. I just think that it's a question we need to start thinking about a little bit more. Like, is that Red Bull really that good? But I mean, I guess it is under Max. But yeah. Anyways, let's move on.
Okay. You caught me off guard with that one, Graham. But I actually agree with you on Perez. But I actually want to dive into a team that we haven't talked about in a while, but we mentioned them here today.
Steak Sauber.
And it's just Aston. No. Aston Martin, the other green car. But I literally said this to my housemate Johnny because when I got home, he was busy watching the race, and I just told him, you know, a car is crap when Fernando Alonso can't go fast. That's when you know a car is terrible. And the Aston, literally, it's by the race weekend, falls 2 positions, and they were battling with Steak Sauber. What?
Alonso even made mistakes today. Hey? To be quite honest with you, like it's for his home race. Like I was quite unimpressed because I mean you guys know I'm an Alonso fan as well, like a big one. I mean literally both of those caps are Alonso's caps. But the reality, like for his home race, you would think that he should know that he could do that with his eyes closed. And knowing Alonso, you know, one of the guys who doesn't often make big mistakes, like he didn't have a good race, man. He didn't have a good race at all. I feel like I can't blame Aston Martin completely for it, but I do agree with you. Aston Martin's definitely looking a little bit dodgy. They're going backwards for sure. But like, yeah, Alonso did make some mistakes, man.
The thing for me is, and look, this is not me being an Alonso fanboy, but this is honestly something
of course it is, though. Of course it is. Come on, be honest. Of course it is.
You actually a Logan Sargent supporter.
No. Don't even go there, BT. Look, don't even go there.
Like, what are you watching?
I've made my peace. Perez is doing a Sargent. They're both useless. End of story. Point being, I actually think the reason Alonso is making so many mistakes is Alonso's always been a driver that pushes a car to its limits. And anybody who's watched F1 knows Alonso hates losing. It's something that he can't stand. And I think he's overdriving that car so much just to try and get a point or two that he's forcing himself into mistakes. And I mean, he literally, at the last race weekend, just before Canada, they announced, no, Alonso's staying at Aston Martin for a further 2 years. And I just think he's like, okay, they clearly promised something good. I think I can stick with him. And 3 weeks later, they're battling the RBs and the Steak Saubers for 15th and 16th.
Yeah.
But again, in defense of Alonso, look, I'm not blaming the Aston completely. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I think Alonso is pushing so hard to just try and get something out of that car that the car's it's the car's losing him, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, it's quite interesting what's happening because Alpine is going up, surprisingly, and Aston Martin is going down. That's quite interesting.
Flavio's been there for 3. Flavio's been there for 3. Flavio's been there for 3 days, and the Oaks are already starting to do better.
Like, that's insane,
of the
man.
guy or what? Jeez, they're like, guys, listen, Flavio's here. We better get.
But in terms of Aston Martin, look, I don't know who to blame, to be honest with you. I still think Alonso made normal Alonso mistakes where he was too quickly to sign with him. I still think Alonso was really open to going to Red Bull or to Mercedes.
He definitely was.
I thought Alonso actually learned his mistakes with Ferrari about signing a long-term contract where you're not sure, yet or anything like that. We haven't seen anything. and he signed with them, knowing the fact that other teams will be willing to sign him as well. So when he signed for Aston Martin, in my mind, I was like, there must be something we don't know that what they do in Aston Martin. Are they going to get Newey in a couple of years' time?
Well, apparently they've offered more.
Yeah, so does Alonso know that? Maybe. But I thought Alonso should learn how Hamilton operates in his later years in Formula One. If you notice, Hamilton's contracts are very like flexi. Very flexi contracts. Lewis Hamilton has learned a couple of things from NBA basketball players. And I'm sure he has friends that play basketball. Basketball players, their contracts are very flexi in terms of they will sign a year-to-year deal with a no trade clause. So a no trade clause means that they can't be traded to another team. So if I looked at Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes contract before he signed with Ferrari, he had a clause that he would actually be able to get out of the contract, right?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. Does Alonso have that in his contract?
I would assume.
No, he just doesn't care. He just leaves.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He doesn't care. He just leaves. He's like, okay, screw you. They offered me something better. Bye.
So
that's why Alonso has only 2 championships. Only 2 championships.
Very true.
Because he didn't master the art of a contract. He never mastered.
That I will actually agree with. That I will agree with. Alonso, even though, again, I'll die on the Alonso hill every day of the week. But for me, I will admit as an Alonso fanboy that Alonso has made some of the worst career moves of F1 drivers in the last 20 years. I will admit that. I think that's one reason why he's also regarded so highly, because he was always in a crappy car getting exceptional results. But imagine if he was, because this was actually a possibility. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but back in 2013, 2012, when Hamilton moved from McLaren to Mercedes, that original contract was offered to Alonso, and he decided to stay with Ferrari. They approached Alonso before they approached Lewis, and look what it did for Lewis. So I will admit he is not the savviest when it comes to where he decides to go and the contract that he signed.
You have to also think though that is it now that he's scared now because he did that as a youngster. He made mistakes as a youngster where he jumped the gun, he burned bridges so quickly. You know, he made those mistakes. And now he's thinking, maybe let me just bide my time. Instead of just jumping ship and burning a bridge, let me just bide my time. Because ultimately, I think at the end of the
I think
at the end of the day, you've also got to think of it like that. Is that I
But you can still do that for him without burning bridges, though. You can still.
Yeah, but I mean,
you can still have a clause in your contract stating that if things don't go well and another team wants me, I'll respectfully go. You're not throwing your toys around and causing havoc as he done before.
But again, guys, yeah.
He's stating.
But again, it also goes down to what his contract actually is, because I mean, I've said this before in the past. You know, his contract, considering that he's close to retirement, and this 2-year contract that he got now is most likely going to take him to retirement. You've also got to wonder if part of his contract was not to groom Lance Stroll. Like, that could have been something in his, because let's be honest, he has been talking up Lance Stroll. He has been helping Lance Stroll. He has been giving Lance Stroll a lot of sort of tips, and a lot of times he just, if Lance is in front of him, there's a lot of times where he doesn't even attack Lance, he just leaves him. So I mean, like, it's you've got to wonder if that is also part of his contract, and if that's the case, he's probably getting a lot of money to you know, I don't know, maybe his priorities are just not the same. You know, maybe he's accepted that there's probably not going to be another world championship coming. So let me make money and let me do this, let me do that. Let me try and build the team. Let me try and get them into a good place. You know, I don't really see Alonso as a team builder. I see Alonso as somebody that must climb in a car and just drive.
Thank you. And the thing is now, it's so sad because we've seen this man driving uncompetitive cars for the longest time now.
But getting ridiculous results with it, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, Yeah, no, leave that. Like, leave that. We know he's capable of doing that. But it would be nice to see him in a competitive car doing what
Yeah,
he has
I
to
agree.
do.
Yeah, doing what he does best.
Yeah.
You see, like, he's gonna retire without us seeing him
Yeah.
in a very competitive car. The most competitive car he's ever been in is a Renault and a McLaren. That's all.
Well, no, I mean,
And it's more than a
he
decade
did
ago.
And we
he
were
did
still
have a
young at that
competitive
time.
Ferrari though.
And we were still young. We were like babies.
He did have a
Uh,
competitive Ferrari.
Uh,
uh,
if you
he won a couple
compare,
of races.
It
okay,
he came
Graham,
second.
okay, I'm gonna meet you guys in the middle here. No. I'm gonna meet you guys in the middle here. 2011 and 2010 to 2012, where Alonso was the only one that rivaled Vettel. The Ferrari was literally labeled as a midfield car, and I'm literally busy watching those seasons on the F1 TV app. I'm catching up on
Yes.
all seasons just for a little bit of a flashback. That car was so horrible. If you compare Alonso's results to Felipe Massa's results, who was his
No,
teammate,
yeah.
Alonso in 2011 lapped Massa 60% of the season in the exact same car. That's like what we're talking now about Perez and Verstappen. Verstappen is just that damn good. Alonso is that damn good, but he's not in a car that can deliver him a championship. And for people like me and BT, and I think even you to a degree, knowing what Alonso is capable. I mean, this guy got into an Indy car and was of the fastest drivers within 2 races. He got in a Dakar Hilux, almost won the thing on his first try. He won the 24 Hours of Le Mans twice, and in the second year, he caught up to win after being a lap behind. He was lapped by the other Toyota. He caught them in 2 stints. This man has got incredible driving capabilities when it's something fast. But we now have to sit and see him in an Aston Martin that's going backwards. I get your point,
Yeah,
though.
dude.
I get your point, Graham. Maybe Alonso has accepted the fact that he's not going to get a third world championship, but it's a pity
Of
to
course,
see
dude.
him not in a car
I'll
running.
be
It's
honest.
a-
Last year,
it's a pity, bro.
excited the hell
It's
out
a
of me.
pity.
I was so ready for Alonso to win a race before he retires, dude. Like, I'm so ready for it. And last year, I got so excited. But
see-
yeah, I just don't see it happening now.
You see, that's the sad part as well. That's the sad part as well, that we're not even, maybe there's no chance that he might even win one race before he retires, because he's in Aston Martin and they're going backwards. I mean, in Canada, they didn't do quite well. In Spain now, this
They were
afternoon,
horrible.
they didn't do well. He finished 12th, bro. That's
Where
crazy.
did Perez finish?
That is crazy.
13.
No, sorry, no, I was just asking. No, I was just
13th.
asking.
12th. Oh.
Okay. But in any case,
Yeah.
okay. Another topic, and
I enjoyed that one.
another topic I actually want to talk about. And we've mentioned them already, but for me, I literally wrote down here Alpine doing the McLaren. That car was literally memed on as being a diesel truck after Bahrain. They are now the best of the rest. That's the car that everybody is expecting to be in 9th and 10th. Alpine, and again, we can do all the Flavio Briatore memes after the podcast, but Alpine have figured something out with that car, and honestly, they are really starting to impress me. And again, this is not any Ocon banter, but that car looks better in the hands of Gasly. The lap times that Gasly gets out of that
as well.
the lap times that Gasly gets out of that car in practice and qualifying is honestly insane. Yeah. And I'm very intrigued to see where Alpine sit by the end of the season, because they're going forward in leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah.
That's
go for it, PT. No, I just wanted to say that it's pretty simple. Like, it's a pretty simple concept to me. If I'm a bitchy duck and I go for a jog, I'm a bit slow, but if I lose a bit of weight, then I'll probably be a bit faster.
Oh, Graham.
It's a pretty simple concept. They lost a bit of weight, and all of a sudden they've gotten a little bit faster. And obviously there's probably some error that's gone into it, and obviously there's some changes that have gone into it, and maybe some floor effects, ground effects. Maybe they've done something to the floors. I genuinely have not been following or have I cared about what Alpine has been doing to their car. So I don't actually know what upgrades they've done. All I know is that Gasly is looking good. And so is that car. And I mean, Ocon's not far behind either. It's just that, I mean, nobody wants to give Ocon flowers. So let's just move on from him. The point is like,
Yeah.
the point is just that, hey, listen, I said it the other day. Flavio is there. Ryan Reynolds is about to see his investment money come to life, bro. That's all I'm saying.
But BT, I would like your opinion as well.
They both finished the same position in Canada and this race as well. So
Oh, wow.
That's quite interesting.
To be fair, they can't really get much further than that.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, this weekend, VCOB was, I don't know what they were doing in terms of
useless.
upgrades were not working, was a hit and miss. So maybe we'll see how VCOB looks in the next race. Maybe they get the upgrades working on that race. But it's quite good, to be honest, at the moment. And it's nice to see Gasly actually outperforming Ocon, just to make sure that Ocon is slightly a dumb person, overreacting over stupid SHIT, because Gasly is actually faster than him. So I'm happy for them. It shows that they're doing something right there. They're progressing as the season goes. And Kick Sauber,
I mean,
yeah.
It looked like they had a step up, and then all of a sudden,
there's no point in talking about them.
By the way, you said
that car is so bright, bruh. That car is so bright. It's hard to miss it. Like, it's so bright. Like, you see it, and
but let's be honest though. It wasn't their worst. It wasn't their worst performance. I mean, Zhou came 13th. By the way, you guys said Perez came 13th. Perez came 8th.
Wait, what?
I completely missed that. When did Perez get to 8th?
Oh no, sorry.
Yeah, I missed that. But the good news is Zhou came 13th, which is pretty solid for a Sauber. For a Sauber eating a steak. Because usually, like when you're eating a steak, you generally take your time. But sorry, I'll take a lap for that. Sorry, my bad. That was bad. But I gotta sorry, my bad. That's very dad joke of me. But I gotta say that you said RB is useless. They were useless, but a certain someone was making some really solid overtakes at the end there. So I mean, they weren't both useless.
Let's not go there.
I'm just saying.
Graham,
no, hang on, hold on. I'm just saying. Remember one thing. Just remember one thing. When a car is bad, can't rate the guy because the car is bad. He didn't do a bad. He had a pretty solid.
You finished 15th, bro.
And where did you
finish? 15th.
Second last. Second last. No.
Just say it. Oh, you get it.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
You finished 18th.
I'm just saying. 18th, I think. You're saying RB are useless, which 19th. They were, but a certain somebody did pretty well in a car that was so bad.
Oh my goodness. Dirk,
nah, dude, you guys are funny.
No. I will give Danny Rick not his flowers. I will give him a rose. I will give him a rose. He made some pretty incredible overtakes. It's just very darn sad. It's on Bottas, who's been chilling in P19 the entire season. Let's move on.
Dirk, wait, before we move on, it's so funny that we see the brighter side in Ricardo. Even if he's 15th, we see the brighter side. Oh, he done some overtakes that look so beautiful. He finished 15th.
Okay.
Let's stop.
I love the passion, BT.
So you're saying that Zhou finishing 13th is not a great performance for him? No.
I didn't say that.
You are saying that.
No.
Because that car is trash.
Graham, I'm talking about Ricardo. Graham, I'm talking about Ricardo. I'm not talking about Zhou. I'm talking about Ricardo.
But can I make this an Apple versus Apple? Like, let's put this an Apple versus Apple fight. You have a bad car. No. You have a bad car. And the one guy is here, and the other guy is here. and the one guy did some really good overtakes and actually had a pretty solid race for a bad car. It's the same with Joe. 15th, 13th, doesn't matter, there's no points. 15th or 13th, it doesn't matter, there's no points. But the performance matters. The performance matters. Okay, let's talk about Albon, right? Every time Albon comes 12th or 11th, we're like, yo, what a race from Albon. No points. What a race from Albon, because Sargent finished last. So now when Daniel gets a pretty solid result and he has a pretty good drive, now it's, oh no, it's, come on. Okay, let's move on.
Graham, in the history of Formula One, historical Formula One, is Albon and Ricciardo in the same position?
I have no clue what the question means.
Albon and Ricciardo, in the history of Formula One, where they rank, the history meaning overall, are they in the same room, sitting beside each other?
Probably, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Move on, Dirk. Move on. I'm tired of this. Move on. Talking nonsense.
Okay, BT, I actually understand your question, and I would not say that they sit in the same room.
Thank you, Dirk. Thank you.
I actually understand.
Comparing Ricciardo with Albon, you might as well compare Ricciardo with Gasly, dude, and Ocon and all the other guys.
You know, can I just say something, Dirk? I'm gonna take that as a compliment, because all I hear BT saying now is that Ricciardo is supposed to be in a higher room than the rest of these guys. So I'm gonna take that as a compliment. Let's move on.
No, you're missing the point, Christian Horner. You're missing the point. The point is we can't rave around and celebrate Ricciardo finishing at 15th. Can't do that. That's the moral of the story.
I got your point, but that's what I'm trying to say. I got your point. What I'm trying to say is I'm taking that as a compliment, because what I hear is you saying that Daniel is supposed to be a higher level. Or I hear you saying Daniel is supposed to be at a higher level. That's what I hear. So that's a compliment to me. So well done, BT.
He is, because he's a race winner and a pole. He has race wins. He has been on pole
Okay,
before.
let's move on, man. That was a bit of fun. But genuinely, he did have a good race though. But okay, let's move on.
Oh yeah, whatever. Move on.
Oh, you two ladies.
There's another
okay.
Aussie. There's another Aussie who didn't have a good race for the first time this whole season. But anyways, move on.
Okay, yeah. Okay, actually, thank you for taking over my job, Graham. But in any case, the last topic I want to talk about actually is McLaren. And we actually spoke about this after Imola. But again, it's apparent to me, and I mean, Lando was very blunt about this before the podium celebration with the interviews. And for me, look, again, in the hands of Verstappen, the Red Bull is a front-running car, but it's not the fastest anymore. I am solidly giving that to McLaren. Lando, I think Lando was a bit harsh on himself to saying that he lost it at the start. I don't agree with that. I think McLaren really didn't pick the right strategy. Obviously, I understand they wanted to win. They had to do something different to Red Bull to actually get to Max. But the thing for me is now, it's very clear that McLaren, like we talked earlier that there's a possibility that either Ferrari or McLaren can actually win the constructors because Perez is doing a Logan Sargent. I think McLaren have actually realized now, boys, there's a massive potential here. We haven't won a constructor since 2007. No, actually, it's even further back. Point being, point being, McLaren looked good. Oscar Piastri really had a messy weekend, but we can get into that. But in the hands of Norris, that McLaren was flying on race pace, and they even showed it in Friday practice. And I honestly think Red Bull are starting to get worried now.
Yeah.
BT, I actually want your point first.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm like, McLaren is. Going back what you said in the previous podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, when you actually asked, like, is Red Bull the fastest car in the paddock? And I think me and Graham said yes. And you said no, of course. And I think this race that you were actually right, to be honest with you. And the thing
Thank
is
you.
that McLaren can fire up those tires very quickly, bro. I don't know how they
Yeah.
do that. I don't know how they do that, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
And what's happening now is that, as what Graham said earlier in the podcast, is that it's either Max is doing a good job and he's outperforming that car, or that car is still fast. And I'm going to answer Graham on that. I think Max is putting on Alonso in that car, bro.
Yes.
He is driving that car. And the difference between Red Bull and McLaren's strategy,
Yeah.
Red Bull also used to winning. They know how to win. Been a while since McLaren on this position.
Yes,
So they're
that's true.
also kind of figuring out things as well, you know. That's the first time in, not the first time, but first time in a while for them to be in this position. They have a fast car like this, so they have to polish up their strategies now with their race engineers and all that stuff. That's why Red Bull is winning these races as well. Besides Max Verstappen being very, very good at what he does, but the race strategy and the race engineers are quite polished than in McLaren.
Yeah.
I would say
Yes.
that, and I'll give it to Graham.
Yeah, the greedy one, the one who supports both of the said teams.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, Graham, before you
God.
go, BT, I've got a new nickname for Graham, considering he's a big McLaren fan as well. Your new
Right.
nickname is Zach Horner Jr.
Shit, don't get,
Yes.
don't.
You can
listen,
choose Zach
listen.
Horner or Christian
Okay,
Brown. Christian Brown or Zach Horner, your choice.
No.
Chris-
You call him Christian Horner.
Chris
Jr., I
Brown,
call him
Chris Brown.
Jr.
Chris, you can call me Chris Brown, bruh. Come on, let's do it. Look, I'll be honest. No, listen, I don't want to be associated to Zach. I'm not gonna lie to you. As much as I love McLaren and as much as I respect his business, man, and what he's done for that team, oh goodness, the guy can irritate me, man. He talks too much when it doesn't concern him. Jeez, like it.
No,
Yes,
that's very
like
true.
He just
That's very, very
slashes
true.
oaks when it's got nothing to do with him. But anyways, okay. On a serious note, gents. First of all, I would like to start. I believe that it was me who was saying that McLaren was faster, if I'm not mistaken. Because I was always asking the question: is Max good or is the car good? But I do think Dirk did agree with me. But okay, now that we got that out the way, because that's very important that people know that I said McLaren. No, I'm just joking. That's not. I'm just joking.
Graham,
No,
get to the point, bro.
Stop it.
Yes.
Stop. Hey, listen. You just rambled on for like 10 hours. Can you just give me Can you just give me?
Yo,
Okay, listen.
bruh. This guy. Ay.
Okay. Cool. On a serious note, gents. I've got to say, I tend to agree and disagree with regards to the McLaren situation in terms of Lando flying and blah blah blah. I think for me, McLaren is really good, and I think that car is amazing. I think Piastri had a bad weekend, which he doesn't have many, so fair enough, it happens. But I messaged in one of my Formula One groups today that Red Bull is OP, man. They are just. They are too good for their own good because they just don't make mistakes.
Facts.
1.9 second pits.
Oh, that's facts.
1.9 second pit stops, and Max just like they know they absorb like and specifically Max. And I don't mean to throw shade at Checo, but it's just with Max, the guy absorbs pressure. He does not care. He just goes. How many times was he told Norris is catching? No, the guy just carries on, like no mistakes, no nothing. I mean, I was watching on F1 TV, so I had DC and Alex, right? And I think it was Alex that kept on saying that this is a margin of error game. Whoever makes the mistake here is gonna lose. And
yes.
Okay, Max did make one mistake in the race. Luckily, it was in a stint where it didn't affect him too much. But ultimately,
yes,
Red Bull will continue winning as long as they are in control. And they are always in control. That's just the reality. They are always in control. They don't make mistakes. Or they very rarely make mistakes. Their strategy is constantly on point. I mean, constantly on point, and Max is just Max, and that's just the reality of it. I think that McLaren did very well, and there's one thing that I've got a question, and I said it in that same group, that is the lack of championship wins gonna get to Norris here, because I feel like he was a bit greedy this weekend. Not greedy in that, like, you know, no, I want to stay out, rather I'm not going to cover George, let me rather stay out and go for Max. It proved at the end that that wasn't the worst thing, because he clearly had more pace in the car, and that's fair. But at the time, you kind of wonder, did he know that he was going to have enough tires and enough pace? Because quite frankly, if everybody else was losing their tires, how was it that he still had so much tire left? I can't understand that. And it just makes me wonder, like, what if he was tire saving that entire time and he was still catching Max slowly but surely? Then that McLaren, then actually Norris is correct in being upset with himself. Because had he gotten in front at the beginning, he would have been able to control that race and stayed ahead, because he would have had the pace to stay ahead. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So what I'm trying to say is, like, if he was saving his tires all that time and he wasn't pushing, then it makes sense why he was able to go a little bit longer and then still gain time in those with the older tire for another couple laps. So that.
But now it goes to what I said as well in terms of experience. As you said as well, that Red Bull used to winning. They used to having a strategy where they're going to win, they know how to win. McLaren's not there yet.
Yeah.
If you look at Miami, how they won, they were surprised.
Yeah. But do you think it's right that...
surprised.
Yeah, do you think it's right that... And I say this with respect to McLaren and with respect to Lando. Obviously, I'm a fan, so to me, it's I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody. But do you think that it's right for the team to give the driver that much power? Because there was not one time where he said, Lando, this is what we need to do. It was always, Lando, what do you think about this? Lando, what do you think about this? And I get it. Maybe they've got that kind of relationship. It's fine. But you're sitting with all the data. Tell the guy what's in front of you. Tell him what's in front of you so that he can make the right call. Yes. Eventually, Lando was like, guys, well, I don't know. I guess it depends. Do we want to win or do we want to come third? And I mean, it's just like,
my goodness.
You know, it to me, I just Derek, I'll get to you can get to me get to that now, but I just want to say that I know that a driver feels what he feels, and I get that, and I know a lot of drivers wish that they had that kind of power, because they can feel versus your data they can feel. Okay, and I get that completely fine. I get that, but I just feel like, you know, when there's so much happening on the track, because there was a lot of things going on the track with all the different drivers and so many things moving around, so much happening on the track around you, and you saying to the driver, okay, well, what do you want to do? But I mean, give the driver some information. Tell him exactly what you're seeing, because ultimately you're asking him what he want to do. He doesn't know what's happening behind him. He doesn't know what's happening in front of him. All he knows is how much time he is behind Max, and that's all his priority is to beat Max. I've got to applaud the hunger. I've got to applaud the drive, or what's not the arrogance, the confidence. I was going to say arrogance, but that's not arrogant. The confidence.
Yeah, we go.
I respect the confidence and I love it. And to be honest, I feel like that's probably what he needs to become a multiple race winner and maybe to become a champion. But I think from the team side, I feel like it's wrong to give him so much power. They need to give him more information, or at least be able to make a call and say, this needs to happen. Because quite frankly, I think he got lucky in the sense that his staying out helped him in some way. But I think he was always on the back foot because of the first stint where he went too long. Had he covered off George, I think he would have probably still come second and possibly been closer to Max even, because he would have had the undercut, I guess, in that sense, because he would have then pitted before Max if he had reacted to George immediately, which I think would have been the better move.
So at the end of the day, what are you saying? Are you saying that the reason why they're not winning is that there's lack of experience in terms of race strategy, and that's where Red Bull has the edge?
I can't say.
Or what are you trying to say?
I won't say that that's where they lose. I'm not saying that that's why they're not winning. I'm just saying that today specifically, and in Canada and in Canada actually. So yeah, maybe I guess I am saying that, but I just think like in Spain and Canada, I'm actually just remembering now. Sorry, I'm just remembering now that this exact same thing same thing happened in Canada, where they pitted him a little bit too late, and it looks good because on track he seems to be quicker when everybody else goes in, and he's on that older tire for some reason. He seems to be a bit quicker, but at the end of it, he doesn't seem to pay off as well. And I mean, we're looking at a track today where the undercut was supposed to be the more powerful thing, and they didn't try and go for that.
Which it was.
Yeah, which it was, and they didn't go for it.
So
okay, can I chime in quickly? Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't answer that question, Dirk. Answer that question.
The thing is, I don't think it's a question you can answer, BT, because that's why I want to chime in, because I don't think that's really a question you can answer directly. Here's where my standpoint is. Look, go into what I'm going to say next with this next point. A driver-team balance when it comes to sharing information, first of all, it differs from the weather conditions. Secondly, it's a very, very fine line and a fine balance that you need to have. If you want to look at the perfect one, Bono and Lewis. There was never a foot put wrong. That is what you need. You need that very fine detail and fine balance. But again, we've talked about this in the past. Leclerc was too soft with the Ferrari mechanics, and Ferrari, not directly, but because of bad strategy, Ferrari screwed Leclerc out of a lot of good results, which includes wins. Lando, in my opinion, is doing the exact opposite. The team don't have the guts to tell Lando, this is the data. If you do what you want, this is what's going to happen.
Okay.
We actually think you should do this. We've got the data. Trust us. It's as if Lando is taking everything that's happening on the track into his own hands, but he doesn't have the info that the team has. And the team are not, I want to say, for lack of a better word, the team are not brave enough to tell him, Lando, this is not going to work. And again, me as well. Lando's radio messages this weekend for me was utter gold. I laughed every time I would see a Lando Norris radio because I knew it was going to be gold.
I agree.
But for me, it is just the team need to be a little bit more strict with Lando, but they still need to take what Lando says into high regard, because at the end of the day, he's sitting in the car, he feels the track, he feels the tires. So even if they've got this data and Lando says the opposite, Lando is probably right. But when it comes down to strategy, those teams sit from Thursday when the press conferences start.
Yes.
They check weather patterns, they check wind. They plan from a Thursday.
Yeah.
This is probably what's going to be the conditions. We need to do this and this and this. And after Saturday qualifying, they know, okay, crap, this is probably going to be what's the best plan. And that is something, like Graham mentioned, that you can't fault Red Bull about. Red Bull are utterly brilliant at planning their weekend, and that is why they're dominant.
Yes.
It's a fact.
Yes.
Mercedes did the same in the previous era. Mercedes did the exact same. Nobody, even when Ferrari had the quicker car, nobody could touch Mercedes because they were so well planned for every single situation at any track.
Yeah, I think Norris, I'm going to get back to you again. I just want to add that Norris' strategy conversations with the team should be like situational based. Like how Sainz done it in Singapore. That was situational based.
Yes.
It's like, oh, we don't know what to do now, or something is happening, I'm going to do this. You understand? I think it could be more that way instead of, it seems like Mclaren just giving everything to Norris to make all the decisions, instead of just giving part of the race to make certain decisions. Like situational basis, whatever's happening.
Can I just make a
a very obvious
point?
No.
And I think this is like, and I know science
Yes.
isn't either, right? But I just think it's very different for Lewis or a Max or an Alonso to take control, because they know what it's like to win. They champions. It's a very different story for a Norris to be able to take control when he's never known how to win yet.
Spot on.
And I do feel
Spot
like that
on.
should, and I know like a lot of people will argue that, and a lot of people say, but he's capable. He is capable, but he doesn't know how to win yet. He's won one race, luckily. I'm not taking it away from him. He did a great job, but if it weren't for that safety car, he wasn't winning that race. Ultimately, the point is he's put himself in a position to win, but he's never won a race, if you know what I mean. So all I'm
Yes, he hasn't. Sorry, just he hasn't had a race win like Sainz had in Singapore last
he
year,
orchestrated it.
where the team didn't know what to do, and it was all down to the driver.
He hasn't orchestrated his own win, and it's different for Sainz. I know he's not a champion, but the guy has been around for a decade. He's been around for a damn long time, and he has also won races before that race. He had won a race or two races before that. So it's not like he hasn't orchestrated a race before out of his own. He understands the winning side of things. So to me, I just think that it's a very different story. And I'm gonna come back to the point. First of all, I feel like I said the same thing that Dirk said, BT. So I'm not sure why you didn't get what I was trying to say. But okay, anyways, the point I'm trying to.
Why did you
because I just had to go back to that. It just feels, it's just like weird.
You take everything personally. I just say that it took you a while though.
It did take me a while, guys. I'm going on holiday. I'm going just for some context so the viewers know. I'm going on holiday tomorrow, and I think that my mind is already switched off because I'm really struggling to get some words out today. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm really struggling. Exactly. I'm really struggling to think. But going back to what I was saying is just that I just feel that in the case of Lando, I agree the team balance is a thing, but I just feel like why are you giving so much power to somebody who's never really won a race like out of his own? He's never orchestrated. And I just think that as much as I believe Lando is capable, I just think the team need to step up a little bit more here and say, okay, Lando, this is what needs to happen. If you want to win, this is what needs to happen. If you want to come second, this is what needs to happen. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Lando also needs to respect and understand that they can see everything. So if Lando wants to win, do what they say. And if he comes second, well, at least it's different. It's different when they say, Lando, this is what you must do, and then Lando's like, but guys, like these tires feel pretty solid still. Ultimately, Dirk, you said that the calls were right. They weren't right though. They weren't right though, because even though he had that one or two faster laps afterwards, he still lost out on the overcut. So it balanced out on the undercut. So it balances out because Max took the undercut. It balanced out. So he had to cover George. And I think that if he had covered George, he would have been closer to Max, and he would have been faster because he would have been able to warm up the tires quicker. And he was on the same tires. Was he not on the same tire strategy as Max? So he would have had the same tires as well. So ultimately, I just feel like he was a little bit greedy in that he was more worried about what's happening in front than behind. But if he had done things properly, I think he would have had more of a chance of actually winning. That's just my opinion, and I could be completely wrong, but I just feel like it happened in Canada as well, where they kept him out too long, and it was the same situation. They shouldn't have. So to me, that's the side of McLaren that I feel will need a lot of work if they want to win this championship, because ultimately Max can still win it on his own. He did it last year. I mean, if Piastri has every now and again a race like today, you know, Max can still win the championship on his own in some ways if he wins every race, you know what I mean? So ultimately, at the end of the day, because remember, McLaren and Mercedes and Ferrari, they're going to take points of each other. So if Max just keeps getting those first places, they can still win. So if McLaren want to really challenge, want to challenge, they need to have both of the drivers firing, but they need to be making better decisions. They really do. That is their downfall, in my opinion. McLaren's downfall. Okay, there we go, BT. I found the words. It took me about 20 minutes, but I found the words. That is McLaren's downfall. If McLaren want to win,
Okay.
They need to sort out their strategy. They need to make better decisions.
Yes. Yes. And on that note, before we end off the podcast, I did not forget, let's get into our race review. Well, your race rating. BT.
4.
Woo. Woo.
4 out of okay. And Greg, you get mad at me. You get mad at how
damn. BT. No, you know what? To be fair, BT was sick, so he was probably sick in the head. Because that makes sense. Because he said he was sick, so I would assume. I don't know if he went to Stuckland, Looney Bin or something, but ultimately, that's a bit outrageous. Anyways, Dirk.
No. You can go second.
You bugger.
Come on. It's my show. You go second.
Bugger.
I will be the last one.
It's a tough one. I enjoyed it. I think I'm going to go... I think I'm going to go with a 6. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like the most exciting race, but I did enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to... That's all. Yeah, you can go.
Okay. Okay, and everybody, let's get ready to see Graham live on the podcast. Rage quit out of life. Okay, here we go. Actually, Graham, I think you're actually going to be impressed with me because we've got the exact same rating.
Oh, wow.
Again, this race had a lot of strategy involved. And there was still, I mean, Lando catching Max, and, you know, there was always that possibility of, you know, what if? And I honestly enjoyed Leclerc catching Russell. I felt that was very interesting as well. And again, I also had moments like BT where I wanted to fall asleep, but I was watching it at works piece by piece, so I couldn't. But there were other parts where I was like, this is actually a very enjoyable race. So myself included, I'm going for a 6 out of 10.
With that, Dirk, with your 6 out of 10, I just think, like, I think that's probably the 3rd time this season that we've agreed. And usually we really on the opposite ends of things. And I just want to say to the viewers that I think that Dirk is really maturing as a character. And he's really coming into his own here. And
Okay. Counterpoint towards our now 8 viewers. He put me in charge of this show, so this says more about him than me. Just so, by the way.
Yeah, but remember the key word there. You must just remember those key words. You said he put me in charge of the show. So who's the real boss here? I'm just saying.
You only think you're the boss because you always wear a freaking Red Bull cap. But besides the point, gents, thank you so much. It was a very enjoyable podcast. It was an awesome evening, and we actually had a lot of good debates tonight. Final thoughts before we say goodbye, BT?
Graham, I stopped taking a while and rambling.
I mean, that's a bit unnecessary.
Graham?
But before I take another 20 minutes to give my final thoughts, let me just say cheers.
Yes.
Oh, guys, my final thoughts is just I'm super excited for this whole triple header. Looking very much forward to Red Bull Ring and Silverstone. We'll see you guys in the next podcast. Remember to drop a like, hit us up in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and ding that bell. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Please subscribe. Cheers. Because Dirk needs a new mic because his sound is pretty bad. Anyways, cheers.
Why do the man like that, dude?
Couldn't you have told me that, like, literally before we started?
It's good enough.